Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Eero Teerikorpi. I'm the founder and CEO of Continuent. Here in the picture, you can see myself with my big buddy, Sibelius. He's a Bouvier, the founders. We love to hike around the California Golden Hills. Today, though, we are talking about MySQL availability. MySQL availability done right, to be exact. So let's get started. Share the screen and put this one in the presentation mode. All right. You may or may not know about Continuent. We are about availability. We've been in MySQL related business since 2001, almost 20 years. And it's all about the availability and continuous operations. Has been, currently is, and will be in the future. MySQL continuous operation is a challenge. It includes the elements of the availability, the subject matter for today. It also does include mindset of the how to deal with the possible disaster. This is effectively implying at the site level failure. Obviously, we have to be mindful about the performance, especially with the geographically distributed deployments. And last but not least, the cost always is a consideration. Continuent offers most complete solution for all of these at reasonable cost. Tungsten Cluster is one of the many MySQL high availability solutions on the marketplace. They are most likely more than you would think and expect. Each of the cloud vendors, Amazon, Google, Azure, have their own data service solution with a varied degree availability attached to them. There are some other cluster solutions, most of them based on Cholera, based on synchronous replication, which has its own benefits and some serious downsides as well. There obviously Oracle, force behind MySQL commercial solution, has its own cluster solution. MHA is old solution still in use, number of people. And there's a lot of do-it-yourself type of deployments using different open source components and then patching those together and scripting them together and creating a solution that does work to some degree. In our view, MySQL high availability done right is based on a clustered approach with the asynchronous replication. And core of the cluster is 3-node database data service. You could build clusters based on 2 nodes, or you can have 5 nodes, but we felt that the 3 is the ideal from the cost and operational point of view as a core component. And then you can replicate a number of those 3-node clusters. Each of these clusters have a 3 critical components providing the services needed. Tungsten proxy, or in any intelligent proxy, in our case, Tungsten proxy is the one that manages the traffic between the underlying cluster data service and the application. You need to have a software that orchestrates the cluster. We call it Tungsten Manager, that has knowledge about each member of the cluster and their role, and then can change the roles as needed. And then last but not least is the replication layer. Continuent was the first one to introduce for example, global transaction IDs. This is back in 2009, way before the MySQL native replication had that kind of a capability at any level. And then, for example, Tungsten proxy has been around since 2006. So we built these type of solutions long time, and we know how to make them truly work. It is a complete solution. It's fully tested solution. It's supported with 24/7 support services. We use Tungsten Dashboard to visualize and give you information about the clusters. In this case, there's actually 3 clusters. One that we are focusing today, 3-node cluster, and then there's 2 geographically distributed. One is active-active cluster, and the other one is active-passive cluster. There will be a subsequent webinars around disaster recovery when we are going to touch these 2 clusters. And I'm going to show a demonstration, kind of how this works in reality. This is kind of an active cluster, fully operational. We lose a primary database, we automatically promote a new primary and connect the existing replica in the new primary. We can recover back the original failed primary and bring it back into the cluster, and then clean it back and promote the original primary as a new primary. So let's take a look how this looks in real life. I have a live cluster attached here with the database 7 as the primary, database 8 and 9 are replicas servicing number of applications. As you can see, the applied and relative latency is relatively small, less than a second. And there are a number of connections, 481 connections attached to this cluster. Let's demonstrate a failure by stopping MySQL services on the primary database. Come back here. You see Tungsten Manager gets information that the database 7 is no longer in action. It communicates to Tungsten Proxy, holds the traffic. Tungsten Manager seeks around, sees the database 9 is the most advanced replica, promotes that as a new primary, and then connects database 8 as a new replica, communicates this changed configuration, changed roles to Tungsten Proxy, which then can release the updates that were going database 7 are now going to database 9, and the retraffic is guided to the replica database 8. All this happened automatically, sub-second, without any connections lost, slight delay on service level from an application standpoint point of view. They are kind of a holding. And then when everything is completed within seconds, Tungsten Proxy releases the application traffic back to cluster. And voila, nothing really major happened. It didn't require any human intervention. It didn't require DPAs to step in. Obviously, this is the point of time that we will send a notification. Tungsten Cluster integrates a number of the solutions, then you can get basically automated, fast, immediate notification about the failure on the cluster, and then somebody who's in charge can come and take a look. Assuming that the database was in otherwise good shape, we can bring it back in the clusters as with the simple command recover. And in this case, it brings the database 7 up to the level that the current primary is by applying all the transaction that was the missing since it was down. And when it has caught up, now it's ready to serve retraffic. All the updates are still going to database 9 as expected. And then if you want to clean this up completely, you can promote the original primary as a new primary. Once again, this is automated process with single command switch. Tungsten Manager and Tungsten Proxy are collaborating together. Once again, Proxy is holding the traffic. Manager is reorchestrating the roles within a cluster, promotes the database 7 as a new primary. And when it's done, it communicates to Proxy, allows the update traffic now to be guided directly to database 7 and all the retraffic to database 8, database 9. All this happens on the background, and there's no changes needed on the application or anywhere else. It's kind of just that the Tungsten Proxy just magically guides the traffic in the correct place with the rules given. Let's go back to the presentation. Hope you like the demo. So Tungsten Clustering is a complete solution for availability, disaster recovery, and scalability at the reasonable cost. But that's with the best support in the industry. Really fast support, less than 3 minutes response time on urgent request. That's the standard. This is a really proven solution. As you can see, a number of blue chip names they are running billions of dollars of combined revenue on our systems. Some of them have tens of clusters. We have customers that have hundreds of clusters, and it's managed with a relatively small number of database administrators, so that the cost actually managing large deployment built on Tungsten cluster solution is low. And since we have a nonlinear pricing, adding additional clusters in the system when you have reached a few tens or a few hundreds clusters is minute. So we are really cost effective compared to many of the even 100% open source solutions. And where does the Continuent fit in the big picture? So we've been on the forefront of the open source and the cloud computing early days. 2004, we started in the US. 2001, we actually started our operation in Finland. And we've been in the forefront of the platform agnostic, highly available, globally scaling clustered MySQL databases all along. We are not the biggest entity on this marketplace compared to many others, and that's not our aim. But what our aim really is that we want to be the best at what we choose to do. And we have chosen to provide highly available continuous operation solutions for the business critical and mission critical MySQL customers. And that we do well, that we do right. I hope you enjoyed the presentation and the short demo. This will be followed by the 3 other webinars, one focusing on disaster recovery using active passive deployment, another one using disaster recovery in active deployment, and then the last to wrap things up will be about the zero downtime maintenance operation, how to best do that, and all while providing a continuous operation. Thank you, and hopefully you will be listening some other webinars of mine relatively soon. Bye now.